I used all the resources to make my girlfriend famous, and even gave up my own future. But on the day she became a movie star, I saw a hot video of her and my brother embracing and kissing. I called over to question her, but she was full of disgust. Can you stop? I've already said it's hype. But she forgot. It was my birthday and she promised I'd be backed up. Then I mentioned breaking up and disappeared into her world. And she begged me hard for forgiveness. Today is my birthday, and it's also the day Lin Ling finally became a movie queen after 5 years in the entertainment industry. She promised that I would come back to accompany me, but now it's after 0 hour and I still haven't seen her. I called her countless times during this period, but there was no answer. This wasn't the first time she pigeonholed me. To be precise, ever since Lin Ling became famous, she hasn't gone on many appointments. Last month, she even left me behind on a trip and personally went to accompany the director for a drink. As for whether it was just drinking, I don't know. Anyway, the director called me the next day and said he was willing to cast Lin Ling as the female lead. I didn't want to reminisce anymore, so I could only get up and put the meal and cake in the refrigerator. After cleaning up the kitchen, I went to take a shower. I came out and realized that Lin Ling hadn't come back yet, so I tried to call her again. This time there was still no answer on the other side. She often didn't answer my calls anyway, so I didn't think too much about it. I've argued with her countless times over the years because of things like this, but in the end I compromised and made up. Lin Ling and I were unequal to this relationship. Even my best buddy Zhou Shiyan called me a licking dog. Being summoned by her death. I went back to my bedroom to get ready for bed, but just as I was about to turn off the lights, Lin Ling's assistant called me. I frowned and answered the phone. The assistant's very anxious voice came from over there. Mr. Fu. Sister Ling Ling, she's on the hot search. I didn't care. She won an award today. It's not normal to be on the hot search. Black hot search pressure on the line. This still needs me to teach you? No. The assistant's voice suddenly became a little cautious. It's Sister Ling Ling who was photographed by the paparazzi. A video of her and Zhou Shiyan embracing and kissing. Zhou Shiyan. Isn't he your good brother? Do you know about this? I stood up violently when I heard the assistant's words. What did you say? The assistant thought I didn't hear him and repeated it again. I hurriedly hung up the assistant's phone and opened Weibo to look at the hot search. There were several hot searches hanging high on the hot search, all related to this matter. I clicked on the first of the hot searches and found that it was a video captured by a paparazzo. I could tell at a glance that the place in the video was Zhou Shiyan's home. And Lin Ling and Zhou Shiyan were sitting on the sofa in the living room, embracing and kissing. The video was long, probably the whole thing was filmed, but my eyes were getting blurry from the tears, and I couldn't see the picture. How can this be? Lin Ling and Zhou Shiyan were notorious rivals in the circle. The two of them were still most famous for the hot search or the video of both of them rolling their eyes at each other while receiving their awards at the gala. I thought about the possibility of Lin Ling cheating on me, but I would never have guessed that this person would be Zhou Shiyan. Zhou Shiyan is my best buddy. I know how much he really hates Lin Ling. Every time he mentions Lin Ling, he's black and angry. But now how did they hook up? I turned off my cell phone and the room fell into silence. But not a moment later, my work cell phone again a bombardment. I guess it is the public relations department to ask me in the end what to do. Lin Ling and I were in an underground relationship, and no one in the circle knew about it at all. Now they were calling me, presumably to ask me if I was dispelling rumors or making an official announcement. I didn't answer their calls, but called Lin Ling first up. This time she answered quickly, probably knowing about her being on the hot search. Lin Ling, what's going on with you and Zhou Shiyan? I just spoke and realized that my voice was a bit hoarse. Fu Mingyuan, are you questioning me? Can you stop it this time? I've already said it's hype. My new movie with Zhou Shiyan will be on soon. Don't we need to market it? It took a while for Lin Ling's voice, full of disinterest, to come out from the other side of the cell phone. I listened to Lin Ling say the word hype to me with much righteousness and raised the corner of my mouth in self-deprecation. I was too familiar with Lin Ling and Zhou Shiyan, So familiar that when I saw the video, I knew whether it was hype or real. When she said hype, there was no way I would believe it. Seeing that I didn't say anything, Linling instead hit back. Fu Mingyan, you don't believe me, do you? Is that what I am in your heart? I don't want to think of Linling as that kind of person. But the truth always gives me a blow to the head. I didn't continue to pursue this, but just changed the question. Linling, do you still remember that today is my birthday? I told you yesterday, and you promised me that you would accompany me on my birthday, but where are you now? Linling's side was quiet for a while before she said, didn't I give you the gift? When can't you eat the meal, and you're a big man eating some birthday cake, so don't be pretentious. She said it with a straight face, as if it wasn't a big deal. But to her, it really was a big deal. And Linling said a gift for me. It was to have her assistant send a bouquet of flowers. She had forgotten that I was allergic to flowers. Tears fell down my eyes again as I blinked upwards and asked, so what are you going to do about this? Linling's tone had some impatience in it. Just don't clarify, isn't keeping this kind of heat good for the drama announcement? Are you the agent, or am I the agent? You have to ask me about this matter. Are you tired of it? I wiped away my tears. Soon it won't be. Linling violently raised her volume. Fu Mingyuan, what do you mean? Are you hardening your wings? You actually dare to say this to me? Don't be a bitch. Have you really forgotten that you can be Fu General Manager all because of me? I closed my eyes. Linling got a premise wrong. The premise of her being able to become famous was me helping her get those resources. I'll find you a new agent as soon as possible. From now on, I'm not your agent. I paused for a moment. Linling, let's break up. I don't know why Zhou Shiyan betrayed me. Back then, if I hadn't saved Zhou Shiyan and his family, he and his mom and sister wouldn't have survived today. Zhou Shiyan and I were college roommates, and I noticed him when he first came here. He's a good-looking guy with good grades, but he's from a poor family and seems to have some low self-esteem. At first, he didn't talk to us, and even when we talked to him, he didn't pay much attention. Later, we also no longer hot-faced to cold us to talk to him. Until that time, he did not come to class for half a month. The counselor knew that Zhou Shiyan and I were from the same hometown and asked me to go to Zhou Shiyan's home to find out the situation. When I walked over the hill to his house, I saw that his house was smashed to pieces. He was covered in blood in front of his sister. The bad guys were beating him with sticks, and his mom was kneeling on the ground begging the people who smashed his house to have a high hand. At that time, I was a little surprised, so I went forward to stop those people, to help Zhou Shiyan avoid the fatal blow. At that time I realized what had happened to Zhou Shiyan. A month ago, his father borrowed money to gamble, but after losing, he ran away, and the lender couldn't find his father, so he had to find their family. But Zhou Shiyan's mom is just an ordinary person in the mountains, and has never even read a book, so how can she pay back the money? In fact, they owe not much, only $30,000. But it was this $30,000 that almost became the last straw that crushed their family. I looked at the broken home and Zhou Shiyan, who was beaten and covered in blood and still wanted to protect his mom and sister, gritted my teeth and opened my mouth. The money their family owes, I'll help them pay it back. This money was the prize money from the research project I did in my freshman year when I won an award. I promised Linling that I would buy her a bag that she had been eyeing for a long time, and I would also take her on a trip to the beach, but now that I lend it to Zhou Shiyan, I don't think he will be able to pay me back in a short period of time. When Linling found out, she had a big fight with me and hated Zhou Shiyan even more. After the loner left, Zhou Shiyan sent his mother and sister to the house before he walked to me as if he were dead and apologized. Thank you. I will work hard to earn money to pay you back. I patted Zhou Shiyan's shoulder and cheered him up. It's okay. When are you going back to school? Zhou Shiyan shook the bag in his hand. Right now, I'll go back with you. My relationship with Zhou Shiyan gradually got better because of this. I also realized that underneath Zhou Shiyan's cold exterior, he was actually more lively than anyone else. We had a lot in common and similar interests. Later, I met a talent scout who said that I had potential and could be trained, but at that time, I was busy with my research and had already decided to make research my life's work, so I turned down the scout and introduced Zhou Shurian to him. Zhou Shurian was a fast learner and very talented in this field, and soon became a hot newcomer in the entertainment industry. He quickly paid me back and got on better terms with me. Zhou Shurian later told me that his father often scolded the family, often beat his mother to the hospital. Later, out of the loan to run this thing, his mother has long been ready to poison. If I did not show up this time, their family has been drinking poison suicide. I saved their family and became their great benefactor. And if I hadn't introduced him to that job, it would have been impossible for him to pay off his debts in a short period of time and let his mom and sister live a good life. I was very happy that Zhou Shurian's life was getting better and better, but at the same time, I also realized that Linling hated Zhou Shurian more and more. Later, Zhou Shurian entered the entertainment industry and achieved very good results, becoming a popular actor with a bright future. Linling also at this time to enter the entertainment industry. Linling and I are childhood friends, and since we were young, we have always wanted to protect her for the rest of our lives. So when Linling proposed to want to enter the entertainment industry, I did not hesitate to tear up the just received, the dream offer, to become Linling's agent. At first, Linling could not even get a supporting role that she could talk about. I have been working day and night to negotiate projects for Linling. Even if I was scolded, it doesn't matter. I was the one who drank until my stomach hemorrhaged from socializing almost every night, just to give Linling a chance to audition. Luckily, Linling is a good fighter, and after a few years of hard work, she has gained a firm foothold in the movie industry. Now Linling is a young movie queen. But our relationship is getting worse every day. Externally, Linling claims to be single, and because of her looks and personality, she often speculates with other male artists. Apart from work, I hardly ever see Linling, let alone have any personal space with her. I also question Linling, but Linling didn't care about these things. I've said that it's a work requirement, and that speculating on CP is the only way to boost my popularity, and you, as my agent, can't even tolerate that? If you can't do it, just change my manager. Don't hold me back. I heard this at the time, and although I felt a bit pathetic, I still complied with Linling. And now, I'm wondering if I did the wrong thing in the beginning. I slept until dawn, and when I opened my cell phone again, I found that there were dozens of missed calls, but all of them were from various departments of the company, and none of them came from Linling or Zhou Shurian. I opened my cell phone and clicked on the hot search, and found that Linling's and Zhou Shurian's hot searches were still hanging on a high level. The two of them had too much influence, and when the news came out this time, how many people wanted to mess with them? Although I no longer serve as Linling's manager, but after all, I am still the company's executive president. This matter still has to be dealt with. So I packed up and went to the company. To the office, I quickly dealt with this matter, but also let the public relations department of the hot search down. Only after seeing the hot search drop out of the list did I close my computer. It was already dark when I walked out of the company. I was about to go home when the phone suddenly rang. I usually don't answer unmarked strange calls. Most of the time it's a private student or a paparazzo. So this time I hung up just the same. But not long after I hung up, I received a message. Linling is having a private meeting with Zhou Shurian in the Xiaolon neighborhood. I frowned for a moment. Xiaolon neighborhood was Linling and I's former home. It was an old, dilapidated neighborhood, and we lived there in the beginning when we didn't have a movie to shoot. But we haven't been back there since we earned our money. Linling didn't want people to know that we had lived there, but I felt that it held memories of Linling and me. So I bought the house. Linling even had a fight with me when she found out. But now she actually brought Zhou Shurian there for a private meeting. I sent this number to my assistant for him to check, and drove myself to Xiaolon neighborhood. On the way to the car, I redialed the number. The other side quickly answered, but spoke in a voice that had been toned down. Mr. Fu, hello? I asked. How did you know that Linling and Zhou Shurian are in Xiaolon neighborhood? Laughter came from over there, because the tuned voice seemed a bit harsh. I don't just know this. I also know that you and Linling have been in love. You held Linling out, saved Zhou Shurian from leaving Dashan, but the two of them betrayed you. These things have not been picked up by any media up to now. Everyone except for knowing that Zhou Shurian and I were college roommates with a good relationship. None of them knew that I had saved Zhou Shurian. This person did know a lot. You go ahead and see if what I said is true. There's an even bigger surprise for you later. The person over there hung up the phone after saying that. I sped up and quickly drove towards the Xiaolon neighborhood. When I arrived at that house, I didn't directly knock on the door, but instead went to the bottom of the bedroom. The soundproofing in this neighborhood is not good, and our house is on the first floor, so as long as you squat by the bedroom window, the two people say something outside can hear almost everything. As expected, I soon heard Zhou Shurian's voice. You still dare to look for me at this juncture, and are not afraid of Mingyuan finding out. Lin Ling let out a laugh. If I was afraid, we wouldn't have hooked up behind his back 3 years ago. I clenched my fists. It turned out that they had hooked up behind my back 3 years ago. 3 years, and I hadn't even realized it. Zhou Shurian seemed to have made some kind of move, causing Lin Ling to shyly call out nastily. Listening to the sounds of their intimate jostling, my entire body was in a cold sweat. Soon came Zhou Shurian's aggrieved voice again. Ling Ling, 3 years ago you said you'd long had enough of Fu Mingyuan, but now you're not even willing to break up with him, and now that this is on the hot search, do you still want me to continue to be a junior? 3 years ago was the year that Lin Ling became an overnight sensation and became a popular young flower. I used all my resources to support her day and night, and she just became popular and said she was tired of it. Lin Ling was a bit impatient when she heard Zhou Shurian kicking me. It's not like you don't know. I still have to rely on Fu Mingyuan for my new movie. I can't fall out with him that easily now. I said it's hype, don't add to the chaos for me. Zhou Shurian suddenly laughed. Fu Mingyuan, that fool, actually still believe your words. He probably to death do not know that the day he had surgery you did not go because with me went on vacation, haha. I stared in disbelief. 2 years ago Lin Ling and I were in a car accident. I was seriously injured, but Lin Ling was not injured under my cover. I spent a month in the ICU and still needed surgery to stand up. The most renowned doctors in the country were hired for that surgery, and just like that, the probability of the surgery being successful was no more than 40%. That means I have a half chance of becoming a vegetable with amputation. Before the surgery, I did not see Lin Ling. I waited for her until the surgery started without seeing her. Then I came out of surgery and woke up and still hadn't seen Lin Ling. I called Lin Ling. What she told me was that she had gone abroad temporarily to make up a very important shot. At that time, Lin Ling's first time to participate in the well-known director's movie. This movie How Many Artists Want to Go Shooting, so when I know Lin Ling is for the shooting, I did not blame her. But now she told me that she went to accompany Zhou Shurian on vacation during my surgery. I almost became disabled to save her, but what about her? Actually vacationing with my good brother. Lin Ling didn't seem to want to hear Zhou Shurian mention me very much, and impatiently interrupted. It was hard for us to find this place, so let's not mention that obscure thing Fu Mingyuan. After saying that, I heard their indescribable voices again. Their voices were too ear-splitting, and I turned around and fled. I didn't know how far I ran. I only knew that my legs were hurting badly before I stopped. Since that surgery, I couldn't run anymore, and my knees hurt like hell every time it rained. I bent down and panted heavily while tears kept falling to the ground. Lin Ling and I have been together since we graduated from high school, nearly 10 years now, and my feelings for her have never changed. But that girl who loved to laugh in my memory is no longer there. And Lin Ling didn't break up with me simply because I was still helpful to her career. I gave up the most wanted job opportunity for her so-called actress dreamed. Originally, I was able to stay in the lab and delve into my favorite research project. But Lin Ling has been using me all along. My heart ached badly just thinking about it. I covered my heart and found a place to sit down, and just as I sat down, my cell phone rang again. It was still the same number. I picked it up and shouted with anger. Who the hell are you? What's the meaning of giving me this call? That side quickly returned. Mr. Fu, the surprise I sent you has arrived. After saying that, That side hung up the phone again. At the same time, I received an email from him. Opening the email, I scanned it twice and was shocked in place. It was a document that recorded Lin Ling and Zhou Shiyan's meetings over the past 3 years. Inside, aside from what I had just learned about the two of them going on vacation while I was having surgery, there were many more that I didn't know about. For example, the anniversary of our relationship that had just recently passed up. On that day, she received a phone call on the way back and told me that there was a program to be recorded to temporarily rush over, although I feel sorry, also proposed to go with her, but she said she was afraid of attracting attention, so she only let the assistant followed. But the phone call was not from the program team, but from Zhou Shiyan. Lin Ling is also not going to shoot, but with Zhou Shiyan went to the hotel date. The year before last, when the flu broke out, Lin Ling happened to be abroad at that time, and after I was infected, I let Lin Ling not return to the country for the time being. But Lin Ling still came back. She said she could not leave me alone at home. Because of this, I was moved for a long time. But the result. The result is that Lin Ling came back because Zhou Shiyan also infected with the flu. She returned to China the first time to find Zhou Shiyan home to stay for 3 days before returning home. She accompanied Zhou Shiyan to the hospital, buy medicine for him to make a big meal, but back home to me to boil a bowl of congee charity, but I self-touched for a few years. And that year, Lin Ling in the film circle, in order to strike while the iron is hot, to Lin Ling to fight for the opportunity of a female lead, accompanied the director to drink for several days of wine, and finally drank to the stomach bleeding hospitalized. At that time, Lin Ling held my hand, crying, said she wanted to marry me. I took it seriously. But the truth is, she went on a date with Zhou Shiyan the day after I was hospitalized. And yesterday's birthday. Yesterday, Lin Ling had just won the movie Queen, and she was so happy that she thanked me for all these years of dedication to her and said that she would spend this birthday with me when the party was over. But she didn't come back. She went to Zhou Shiyan's house to accompany him, and even her gift was just a flower that would cause me allergies. Now that I think about it, they have probably laughed at me many times in private. There were actually a lot of records of their private meetings in the back, but I simply wasn't in the mood to look at them anymore. The result was the same anyway. My girlfriend, 3 years ago, cheated on my best buddy. The two of them cheated me like a fool. I didn't pursue whoever owned that number. Just went home and backed up the email on my computer, followed by a phone call with the director. After taking care of those things, I took a shower and went to bed. But I didn't fall asleep until very late, my mind filled with images of Lin Ling and Zhou Shiyan entangled together. Tears wet my pillow. I wanted to ask Lin Ling and Zhou Shiyan what I had wronged them for. But I can't. Now is not the best opportunity. I took out the melatonin from the nightstand and ate it, quickly falling into sleep. I was woken up by several sharp cell phone rings. I looked at the caller ID and it was Lin Ling. She kept calling me, with the appearance that she would keep calling if I didn't answer. I still didn't answer it, blacked out her cell phone, got up and cleaned up and got ready to go to the office. But when I opened the door, Lin Ling was standing outside with a black face. She took advantage of the fact that I didn't react and walked straight into my house. I was afraid that the paparazzi following Lin Ling would spy on my address, so I didn't pull with her and closed the door as well. Lin Ling's eyes were a little red when she saw me, as if she had suffered some kind of grievance. Ming Yuan, was it you who recommended Cheng Ran to be the female lead in that movie? You obviously promised that you would recommend me. Director Li and I are friends, plus I have some talent in casting, so Director Li let me recommend an actress to be the female lead of his new movie. Director Li's movie was one that actresses in the industry wanted to star in, so naturally Lin Ling wasn't surprised. But compared to Lin Ling, who is a movie queen, Cheng Ran is just a newcomer. I called and recommended Cheng Ran to Director Li yesterday, so it seems Lin Ling already knows the news. It's me. When you asked me to recommend you, I told you that you weren't suitable for that role. It was because you were my girlfriend that I helped you, but now it shouldn't be necessary. Lin Ling stared. Why, you're just because of that hype? Ming Yuan, we've been together for so long. Do you not trust me that much? Zhou Shiyan and I don't see eye to eye with each other. How could we possibly be together? She also tried to pull me to the fault side. It was as if I was a small-minded person. Lin Ling, yesterday you and Zhou Shiyan went to Xiaolon neighborhood, am I right? I calmly finished this sentence, raising my eyes to look at Lin Ling, seeing that Lin Ling's expression was a bit flustered, as if she didn't expect me to know. When I had a serious surgery for you, when the flu broke out on the anniversary of our relationship on my birthday, and many other times I didn't mention, you were accompanying Zhou Shiyan, right? You and Zhou Shiyan hid it from me for 3 years. Do you know what concept that is? Now you're telling me that it's all hype, telling me that I'm the one who's being careful, Lin Ling. Won't your conscience hurt? Lin Ling immediately jumped in front of me and grabbed my hand with both hands. No, Mingyuan, it's not like that. Listen to my explanation. It's Zhou Shiyan. It was Zhou Shiyan who seduced me. He betrayed you first. I couldn't help but snicker as I looked at the way Lin Ling was now pushing the dirty water onto Zhou Shiyan. I should have seen it before. Lin Ling is a selfish person at heart. Such a person I actually loved for 10 years before realizing it. It is me who is stupid. Seeing that I didn't say anything, Lin Ling grabbed my hand and begged again. Mingyuan, I really know that I'm wrong. You know that this play is very important to me, so just say one bad word to Director Li. I could see that she didn't know what she did wrong even now. She begged me, but only because she still needed me. I shook off her hand. No way. Saying that, I yanked Lin Ling's hand and dragged her to the door. Lin Ling, I said break up, so don't come back to me. After I finished, I closed the door, let Lin Ling outside how to shout but did not open the door. After that day, Lin Ling did not find me again. I also go to work normally, thus. But one day when I went to work, I suddenly realized that there were a lot of reporters and some fans standing in front of the company. After they saw me, they all swarmed over and took pictures of me. Fu Mingyuan, you moralistic villain. You actually dared to bully our sister. At the loss of me sighing that you're good to your artists, dare I say that you're such a person. I was confused by their words and didn't know what was going on. The security guard and the assistant both ran over. The assistant rushed over to me and whispered to me, Mr. Fu, you didn't answer the phone call I just made to you, and now things are getting a little too big. I was about to ask what had happened when the reporter's voice suddenly rang in my ears. Mr. Fu, is there anything you want to say about the fact that you had sexually harassed the company's artists online? I sat in my office and finished reading today's Hot Search. It was a reputable paparazzo who broke the news that I had sexually harassed more than one of the company's artists. From the biggest to the company's first sister, Lin Ling, to the smallest to the trainee who had just signed up with the company and hadn't even debuted yet. The pictures, videos, and even recordings on this all look real as hell. But I'm the only one who knows they're all bad cuts. For example, this one where I was supposed to take a blanket to cover Lin Ling, but it was evilly edited to say that I was touching Lin Ling's leg. Another example is when other artists were sick and I cared for a few words. It was evilly edited to mean I was plotting against them. What's worse, these people didn't know what was wrong with them, but they all came out and admitted to it. For a moment, everyone on the internet was cursing me. I have long looked at Fu Mingyuan like a beast of burden, but I didn't expect it to be true. He's such a big guy and he's still Lin Ling's manager, so he must be plotting against me. I still think he's handsome and good for us. Disgusting. This kind of person should go to hell. Damn it, Duff. I slammed my cell phone to the ground. It must be Lin Ling's fault. Lin Ling has always wanted to get the majority of the company's shares. Only at that time this company is my capital, so I hold the most shares and did not let Lin Ling get more shares. It's just that Lin Ling has a high prestige in the company, so if she brings up this matter, there will definitely be people who are willing. Lin Ling is messing with me like this, isn't it, because she thinks I don't have any evidence? Just as I was still looking at the hot search, the phone rang. I lowered my head and glanced at it. It was Zhou Shiyan. After so many things happened in the past few days, it was still the first time he called me. I pressed the answer button and placed the phone to my ear, and Zhou Shiyan's voice with bragging came out. Fu Mingyuan, How does it feel to fall to the dust and be abused by everyone? In fact, I simply do not understand why Zhou Shurian betrayed me. According to reason, I am very good to him. I looked at the desktop me and Linling Zhou Shurian's photo, on which I put my arm around Linling, while Linling and Zhou Shurian still look at each other. The heart is a little sour. But soon I calmed down and said, Zhou Shurian, I'll hang up if you're talking about this. I'm at your office door, open the door. Zhou Shurian hung up after saying that, and didn't give me a chance to refuse. I lifted my eyes to look at the reporters outside the company, pondering for a moment before I got up and opened the door to Zhou Shurian. Zhou Shurian will be wrapped tightly. See me open the door on a flash, walked in. I locked the door, not very close to Zhou Shurian, just raised his eyes and looked at him silent. Zhou Shurian walked to the sofa and sat down as if nothing had happened, and looked at me and said, You don't have to look at me with this kind of eyes. The one who betrayed you first was Lin Ling. It was her who seduced me. I let out a laugh at Zhou Shurian's words. He and Lin Ling said the same thing. It was really a perfect match. Zhou Shurian watched me laugh and looked at me with the eyes of a psychopath. What are you laughing at? I didn't answer Zhou Shurian's question, but asked, Why did you betray me? In fact, I couldn't figure out why Zhou Shurian and Lin Ling betrayed me at all. At least my conscience was right with the two of them. Zhou Shurian lowered his head and drank a cup of water and said in a somewhat muffled voice, Why? My mom died. I frowned at him. Zhou Shurian's mother passed away 3 years ago, because she worked a lot and eventually died of a heart attack on the farm. Our family was present at Auntie's funeral, and I didn't know why Zhou Shurian suddenly brought this up. Zhou Shurian looked at me with some anger. At that time your mother and father came. Your family is not rich, but it is also considered well off. At least the family is happy. Do you know when I saw your family neat and tidy when how envious? I didn't understand. So what? Zhou Shurian, however, suddenly seemed to be angry and shouted fiercely, Why should I? Why do you get to have such a wonderful family? He said and rushed to my side. His eyes wide and his whole body was insane as he shouted at the top of his lungs, And you're delusional enough to want to form an even happier family. I won't allow it. I will never allow that. My eyes got a little wet, even as my whole body started to shake. Now I finally knew why. But this truth was too much for me. My most trusted brother betrayed me because of jealousy. But I was most concerned about Zhou Shurian's feelings, never mentioning anything about my parents in front of him, and never shouting mom and dad in front of him, just for fear of irritating him. And that time Auntie's funeral, because Auntie often sent food to our family, my parents and Auntie is also friends, there is no reason not to attend her funeral. Even I know Lin Ling and Zhou Shurian not deal with, never in front of Zhou Shurian mention Lin Ling, not to mention and he will not show love, and I never send a circle of friends, Lin Ling even more cannot send, so Zhou Shurian also have no way to see me and Lin Ling love. I've already taken into account Zhou Shurian's emotions, but so he is still jealous of me and Lin Ling hooked up together. Zhou Shurian seemed to say he was tired and drank a glass of water. I walked to Zhou Shurian's front, picked up the glass of water and slammed it on the ground. Zhou Shurian, I never bring up these things in front of you. Ask yourself, where in the world did I wrong you? Zhou Shurian was not annoyed by the water spilled all over the place. Instead, he laughed out loud at my angry appearance. You appearing in front of me alive is to apologize to me. I felt that Zhou Shurian was really a bit unbelievable and walked up and slapped him. All these years I have treated Zhou Shurian's relatives as my relatives in support. Every time on New Year's holidays when Zhou Shurian would be too busy to come back home, I would go to accompany Zhou Shurian's mom and sister to spend the holidays. I have been true to Zhou Shurian's family, but he hates me all the time. I tilted my head to keep my tears from falling, and then looked at Zhou Shurian and asked, Do you love Lin Ling? Zhou Shurian snorted a laugh when he heard my question. Love? This question of yours is ridiculous. I hate you. Naturally also very Lin Ling. Knowing the reason, I already didn't want to gossip about anything with Zhou Shurian anymore. I walked up and opened the door. Zhou Shurian, since you have made your words clear, we don't have any relationship, and we don't have to meet again in the future. Zhou Shurian walked fast at this time, leaving without even looking at me. I couldn't catch my breath just after he left, my entire body breathing heavily. Until my mind eased, I walked to the window and watched the sun gradually set, and the reporters had dispersed, with only a few still guarding the door. My assistant and I confirmed that there were no reporter handles on the back door of the company, and only then did I let him drive my car to the back door, and myself took the keys and went down from the elevator at the back. When I got to the back door, my assistant was already waiting for me. I took the keys and was about to get in the car, but all of a sudden a flashing light was aimed at me. I hesitated for a moment, and the reporters swarmed around me. All of them surrounded me and kept shaking my eyes with the flash. "Mr. Fu, is what happened on the news true or not? Did you sexually harass the company's artists or not? Aren't you afraid of retribution for doing this?" Just when I was wondering how to stand out, a person suddenly rushed into the crowd on a motorcycle. She rang the car bell in advance, but she wasn't afraid that those reporters wouldn't dodge, and she directly rushed in without slowing down. Those reporters were so scared that they directly avoided it, which created a breakthrough. That person stopped in front of me. I immediately understood what she meant and directly stepped onto the motorcycle. I didn't recognize the man, but we had a good understanding. The person watched me sit still and then dash straight out of the crowd, driving me towards the distance. Against the evening breeze, her hair brushed my cheek. "You're the one who sent me the documents, right?" Chung Ran. Chung Ran didn't seem very surprised. "I know you guessed it." Like Lin Ling, Chung Ran was also a popular flower in the entertainment industry, and although she didn't have as many fans as Lin Ling, her favorable reviews trumped her. "Why are you investigating Lin Ling?" I asked. As far as I knew, Chung Ran and Lin Ling didn't have much interactions because they were contemporaries of the little flower. Chung Ran didn't seem to be thinking of hiding it. Instead, she spoke to me calmly. "You should be familiar with Zhang Yu, he's my boyfriend, and you should be familiar with his famous works." I was indeed familiar with it. Zhang Yu's masterpiece was also Lin Ling's masterpiece. The script was good, the production team was good, and I guessed at the time that it would be a hit. So I also discussed the choice of female lead with Zhang Yu, but Zhang Yu insisted that he already had someone in mind and was unwilling to choose Lin Ling. Then I gave up, but suddenly one day Lin Ling told me that she wanted to play the female lead in this movie. At that time, I didn't think too much about it and just assumed that Zhang Yu thought Lin Ling was acting. But that might not be the case now. That movie was written about us, and when he created the story he said that I was the only female lead. But suddenly one day he said that the female lead of the movie had become Lin Ling. Later I realized that it was Lin Ling who seduced Zhang Yu. She didn't know what kind of ecstasy she gave to Zhang Yu, and actually made him change the female lead to him, and even mentioned breaking up with me. I was surprised to hear Chung Ran's words, but when the surprise passed, bitterness filled my heart. Lin Ling actually betrayed me in so many ways, and I actually didn't know about it at all. She wasn't worth it at all. "So you stalked Lin Ling?" I asked. "Well, I know that you guys are in love, and I also know that Lin Ling cheated on Zhou Shiyan, and of course even more so, I know that today's events are all rumors from her, and the evidence I've already sent to your email address, so you can take it and clarify." Chung Ran replied generously. I was silent for a while before slowly spitting out 2 words: "Thank you." Chung Ran didn't reply to my words, but sent me to the entrance of a hotel. "There should be a lot of reporters in front of your house right now. This hotel is very remote and won't be discovered for the time being. You should know what to do about clarifying things." I nodded and got out of the car and thanked her again. Chung Ran opened her motorcycle helmet, revealing a pair of determined eyes. "If you thank me, let everyone know what kind of person Lin Ling really is. I want her to never be able to hold her head up as a human being for the rest of her life." Chung Ran's request was not excessive, so I naturally agreed. I walked into the room that had just been opened and directly turned on the computer, plugging in the USB flash drive that I had brought with me, and then opened the email that Chung Ran had sent. It was a recording of Lin Ling and other female artists and me screwing me. Lin Ling gave them the condition that as long as she became the executive president, she would arrange for them to have female lead dramas. Most of these people she found had never acted in a female lead before, so the offer was enticing enough. I organized all the evidence and directly clicked on my microblog and opened the live broadcast. My microblogging account fans are not small. Just open the live broadcast on the influx of a lot of people, mostly hilarious to scold me. But I did not refute. Until my live room people more and more, they will live room heat to the first after I looked at the screen. You all must be wondering how things really went down today, I can tell you. Lin Ling and I have been together since we graduated from high school. It's been almost 10 years now. And Zhou Shurian is my college roommate. We're extremely close, and it's been 8 or 9 years now. And I only realized when I saw the hot search a few days ago that my girlfriend and good brother got together behind my back 3 years ago. Because of this, I refused her request for me to recommend her to be Director Lee's female lead, plus the fact that she had been coveting me for so many years until then, so she became enraged and joined forces with other artists in the company to slander me. After saying that, I made a list of all the evidence one by one. At first there were people who didn't believe me, but soon they couldn't say anything. The evidence was almost ironclad, making it impossible to refute. This matter was reversed on 2 levels, and even Lin Ling and I's reputation changed. Everyone was heartbroken for me, and they were also scolding Lin Ling and Zhou Shurian. Lin Ling seemed to have watched the live broadcast as well, and quickly called me. Only I didn't answer and blacklisted her. I haven't even had to pull her off my blacklist since. The next day I went to work as usual, but this time there were no more reporters squatting on me. They had all gone to squat on Lin Ling. I pushed open the door to my office, but suddenly saw an unexpected guest. When Lin Ling saw me, she immediately jumped to my side, kneeling on the ground with a thud, grabbing my hand and not letting go. Ming'an, I really know I was wrong. I shouldn't be obsessed with treating you like that. That was all Zhou Shurian's idea. I was confused for a moment. I looked at Lin Ling crying with a handful of snot and tears. If before, I guess I was heartbroken to death, but at this time my heart did not have any waves. Lin Ling, you only came to beg me after your reputation was damaged for the rest of your life, and you couldn't possibly appear in the entertainment industry again. You didn't even realize the mistake. Lin Ling shook her head in panic. No, it's not. I really realized my mistake. Please, Ming Yuan, just give me another chance. Let's live a good life in the future, okay? Didn't you promise to marry me? I shook Lin Ling off and looked at her with slight disgust. It wasn't me who broke the oath first. From the beginning you were using me, and now you're going to use me again. Lin Ling didn't seem to have much strength right now. She was pushed to the ground by me at once. But she didn't get angry and continued to cry. I'm sorry, Ming Yuan. I now realize how outrageously wrong I was. I'll definitely correct it, and I'll never do it again. Please, Ming Yuan, just forgive me this time, please. Ming Yuan, we've been together for so long. Do you really want to give up, you? I looked at Lin Ling and exited to interrupt. Of course I can give it up. Lin Ling, the Fu Mingyuan who loved you was killed by you as early as that day. The current me doesn't love you at all. If you have to say that I have emotions for you, it can only be hate. Lin Ling undauntedly stood up to my side. Her hands raked my face. I don't believe it. You love me the most. How can you possibly hate me? Obviously you said you would love me for the rest of my life. It's impossible, Mingyuan. I don't even know what kind of energy Lin Ling is clinging to now, but I really don't want to get entangled with Lin Ling anymore now. I walked to my desk and picked up the phone to call the security guard. Lin Ling has been kowtowing and apologizing to me, like a crazy person. I really don't want to see her this crazy look. Walked up and pulled her up. Lin Ling, however, thought I had forgiven her and happily pulled my hand. I knew you would forgive me. I violently shook off Lin Ling. Just as this time the security guard rushed in. I took several steps back. Quickly throw her out. This person can never be let in. The security guards immediately did as I ordered. Lin Ling couldn't resist the security guards while being dragged away. She shouted, Ming Yuan, I know I'm sorry, but I was also blinded. Can't you forgive me this time? I covered my ears. For Lin Ling, even if she apologized to me countless times, I could never forgive. Chapter 12. Lin Ling's hot search hung on Weibo for almost half a month before disappearing. What also disappeared with it was her as a person. All of her works were taken down and all of her numbers were blocked. Everyone typing her name was now abbreviated. Along with her disappearance was Zhou Shiyan. Although Lin Ling had attracted a lot of firepower, Zhou Shiyan hadn't avoided it either. Both people suddenly disappeared in front of the public, and even I don't know where they went. Soon, another 5 years passed in a flash. Cheng Ran, the artist I brought with me, won the second movie Queen of her life. On her acceptance speech, she thanked me in particular. I applauded her heartily as I watched her shine on stage. Cheng Ran's success today was due to her own efforts and had nothing to do with me. After the awards ceremony, I bought a plane ticket to go home. I hadn't been home for a long time, and this time I was planning to take a break and take my parents on a vacation. Just after I got off the plane and returned home, I thought about how my dad likes the roast duck in front of the house, so I went ahead and bought it for him. Just as I was buying the roast duck, an abrupt yell came from the side. "Have some strawberries?" "No, I just want to pick them today, they're fresh." I turned my head, but saw a strange and familiar face. It was Lin Ling. Lin Ling had aged a lot. Obviously she hadn't seen her for only 5 years, but she looked completely different from how she looked 5 years ago. Her hair was a little gray, and her entire face had a lot of wrinkles. This would never have been allowed if it was before. What surprised me even more was that Lin Ling's face and body had a lot of bruises that looked like she had been beaten. I was wearing a mask, so Lin Ling shouldn't have seen it clearly just now, but when I turned around, Lin Ling immediately recognized it. Ming Yuan. I only heard Lin Ling say those 2 words, then she ran away. The roast duck boss accosted me. "You guys knew each other before?" I looked at him and nodded. "Didn't she do all that shit?" It all spread on the internet, couldn't mix it up and returned home. As a result, this side didn't even treat her well, and in the end, her dad managed to find someone willing to marry her, so he hurriedly married her off. That man is also not a thing, often beat her. There is a child where beaten abortion is also a retribution. Our side is a small place, and many people emphasize men over women. But such a small place knew what Lin Ling had done, so it was evident that the spread rate was high. Seeing that I didn't say anything, the roast duck store owner asked again, "Do you recognize Zhou Shiyan?" I didn't answer, just asked, "Did he come back too?" The duck store owner nodded. Baka, but unfortunately cannot think to fight with others, was beaten by the group of punks to serious injuries, hospitalized, was not rescued and died, leaving a sister unattended. Really do not understand how he thinks. I was a little surprised, and did not expect Zhou Shiyan to end up like this. Roast duck store boss will roast duck hand it over. Your roast duck is ready. Hey you, and what is their relationship? How do you know them? I took the roast duck, didn't chat with the duck store owner, turned around and left. Under the setting sun, I watched my shadow being gradually lengthened. I knew that I still had a long life ahead of me, and all of Lin Ling's future life had nothing to do with me anymore.